Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome again. All right. Tonight, I'm going to bring a very interesting article that we like to share. As always, we like to share some very important information concerning recovery, concerning support. We always find it important to assist those who may be struggling with any issues that they may need help with. And so it's my job to not only bring the information, but also give you the right direction towards the appropriate help that if you need, you or your loved ones. So with that said, we always suggest that um, if we can't help you with the information that we provide, that you seek professional help outside of the information that's being provided. These words or this information is not of my own. They are brought to us by monarchshores.com. You can go online and receive this article. Once again, this article is brought to us by monarchshores.com, the article that we retrieved. And so my name is Craig. And so without further ado, let's dive right into the segment. So tonight we wanted to talk about losing a loved one to addiction. This is our family recovery support group. And so this is an article that uh, I felt the need to share because a lot of times this information or the loved ones, the family member, get unnoticed, or maybe enough information is not being shared on their situation and how they may have been affected or being affected uh, from a loved one who either transitioned or someone who is still in the midst of struggling with some type of substance abuse issues. All right. And so let's read. I'm going to read the introduction. So this article starts off by stating, losing a loved one to addiction is an almost impossible grief. There's no universal method to coping because each one will have to deal with the loss on their own terms. The heart is a strange thing. How many times have you heard of somebody dying of a broken heart? But it's very real, but it's a very real thing, especially for couples who have been together for a long time, a lifetime. When grief is too much due to drug addiction and alcoholism, that can be a welcoming friend. This is not to say that you should be swallowed by your own grief. The pain of losing a loved one to an addiction can be debilitating, but still, you need to move forward, especially if there are others who depend on you. The death toll due to alcoholism and drug addiction is showing no signs of abating. The United States is dealing with an opioid epidemic, and 632 Americans died in the year 2016 due to a drug overdose. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, alcohol poisoning, meanwhile, claims 88,000 lives per year. Nobody is immune. You may know somebody who is struggling with alcoholism or substance use disorder, whether it's an immediate family member, relatives, friends, or acquaintances, or even a coworker. Sometimes talking to them about their problem and getting help can be the difference between life and death, right? And so that's the introduction of this article. And so today discussion, we're going to go right into coping with losing a loved one to an addiction, right? And so the first bullet talks about Allow time to grieve. Everybody grieves differently in the face of death. Some can move on almost immediately, while others sink into depression. Time is a great healer. However, if you think that you are heading on a downward spiral with no means of stopping, then it's time to ask for help from your family, friends, and even professional counselors who can help you process your grief. The next bullet we want to talk about, the first one we just talked about, allow time to grief, time for grief. The second bullet is we want to talk about don't bury your feelings. If you are guilty because you feel that you didn't do enough to help your loved one deal with drug addiction or alcoholism, don't try to bury it deep inside where it's bound to come out as a complex. This is where all the problems start when we don't acknowledge how we feel. Unlike what others may tell you, there's nothing wrong with feeling a pain of guilt. The earlier you acknowledge this, the earlier you can seek help. Eventually, you have to forgive yourself. Third aspect bullet we want to talk about is know that you couldn't have control of the outcome. All right? Know that you couldn't have control of the outcome. No matter how you replay all the events leading to the death of a loved one due to drug addiction or alcoholism, you can't change the outcome. Recognize that this is a fool's errand and will only result in unnecessarily damaging your psyche. Losing a loved one to drug addiction may be difficult, but trying to second guess your action is downright impossible. What you can do instead is to honor their life, bring them flowers, cook their favorite food, frame your favorite photo of them, and really know them through the eyes of their friends. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's not what people do that defines them. Next, we want to talk about take stock of your life and find a motivation. Losing a loved one to drug addiction will drive you to exist on autopilot, and that's fine. At least in the beginning, for parents who still have other young children to care for, they need to understand their responsibilities. Yes, they are grieving, but there are others who rely on them to be strong. Their children are probably grieving too, and they don't even understand why all these things are happening. They need a lot more of care and love from everybody to make a sense of what's going on. The next bullet we want to talk about or share is take a vacation. So remember, this is a recovery support group, a family recovery support group. And so therefore, we like to bring information that can help all of us if we experience some death in our family, one way or another, whether it be through drug-related death of disease or whether it just being overdose or whatever, we all need to come together and try to heal and make some sense of what tools or what avenues that we can take to become stronger and healthy. Because you remember, the article says you may have other children or you may have siblings or loved ones who depend on you to be strong. And so we need to find out what we can grab hold to so that not to bury our memories of our loved ones and all the good things, but to bring back the good times that we shared with them, the good memories. And so, and as the article says, no matter what, people make mistakes, nobody is perfect. All right. And so it says take a vacation. That's what we want to talk about now is to take a vacation. If you're able to, let's see what the article says about taking a vacation. You may feel guilty about taking a vacation right after losing a loved one to an addiction, but you desperately need a distraction. It's better that you bring your close friends or family members with you on the trip. This is a good opportunity to talk about your loss, process your guilt, fears, and grief. It's also a good way to feel that you are not alone in this. You can also take a vacation alone. For instance, did your loved one have a dream destination before their death? That could be a good starting point for where you would travel next. All right. And so we went over the first uh, aspect of coping with losing a loved one to addiction. And the first one we shared or talked about was allow time for grief. That was the first one. The second one was don't bury your feelings. The third one, know that you couldn't have control of the outcome. The fourth one, take stock of your life and find a motivation. The fifth one that we just covered and read is take a vacation. The sixth aspect of coping with losing a loved one to an addiction is pursue an advocacy. Okay? Pursue an advocacy. Don't let losing a loved one to addiction become the end of the chapter. You can create a foundation on their behalf or take up an advocacy against the dangers of drug addiction and alcoholism, using the death of your loved ones as a cautionary tale. If you feel that you are not ready, there are nonprofit organizations that are in desperate need of financial support to continue their assistance to people struggling with substance use disorder. You can help raise funds or make a contribution yourself. Another way is to raise awareness on the benefits of seeking alcohol or drug rehab treatment because that decision could save their lives. All right? In that way, losing a loved one to an addiction wasn't for nothing. Get involved, okay? And so a lot of times people, it may be easy to say or easy to read that what a person could do or should be doing unless you experience it for yourself. And so I know people, when you talk about doing outreach and advocating on the behalf of those who are struggling with substance abuse issues, they may find that there is not their niche. All right. And so, JR, welcome, welcome. Let me see who's that. Mr. Serrano. All right, buddy. I see you, man. All right. Yeah, so let me see. How you doing today?
How are you?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Man. You all right?
Yeah, it's going to my spam, so I finally found the link.
That's good, man. So as you can see on the screen, we're talking about coping with losing a loved one to an addiction. So I just read 6 bullet points on coping with losing a loved one to an addiction. So I'm on number 7. All right. So
Okay.
if you want to join in, if you have anything to say, feel free. All right. So number 7 talks about make a bucket list. So it says, this article says, losing a loved one to an addiction doesn't mean that their legacy is finished. Make it their responsibility to complete what they always wanted to do when they were still alive. Did they want to go bungee jumping? Did they want to visit the Vatican or the Caribbean? Did they want to go parachuting? What were the dreams your loved ones shared with you before their death or before their drug addiction? Okay, so these some ideas, these some interesting ideas that can help family members who have lost a loved one uh, in their efforts to heal. And so the first aspect we talk about is allow time for grief. And so a lot of times people have uh, need the time and space to get over the loss of a loved one. We know this is a sensitive issue, a sensitive topic. However, this is a family recovery support group meeting. And so, anything that we can do to share to help people find an outlet to become stronger and to heal in a healthier way, we're going to bring the information. All right. And so, the next one we want to talk about, share yourself. This is very interesting because I'm curious to know where they're heading when they say share yourself. All right, let's see what the article says. It says, if you feel a large amount of grief after losing a loved one to an addiction, you can share your love and time with others who are in a similar situation. There are countless cases where people pursued a career in counseling and therapy after a death in the family due to drug addiction and alcoholism. When you see that some people face a bigger problem than yours, you gain a new perspective on life. Let me ask you something, Mr. Soriano. Uh, have you ever shared in a meeting or group setting?
Yes.
Yeah. And so when I started reading it, I started to think, a few times I shared in a meeting in a group, whereas not only that I shared, but people who shared, uh, even though we may not have the exact experiences, but we have some similarity. And for me to hear their story, I gained something from their story. And I heard people tell me that they gained something from hearing my story. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, I've experienced that where like it hasn't been similar, but I've always gained some type of knowledge where it's different, but the feeling is the same.
Yeah, yeah, because it's almost like, even though we didn't do the exact identical thing, experience, it's just that it makes you reflect and say, man, I remember the times when I was, needed help and someone came and helped me along the way, something like that, And so sharing, I think, one of the things when I was in the therapeutic community was that in order for us to keep our sobriety, we must give it away freely. And by that, we must share our stories, our testimony, so that not only we keep our sobriety, but also that we help somebody along the way. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So,
sir.
so I like that part, share yourself. So the next one we want to talk about, accept people's generosity. So the article says the death of a loved one because of drug addiction or alcoholism may shatter the safe cocoon you have built around yourself. This could drastically change the way you look at other people, especially if you have no idea that your loved ones were struggling with substance use disorder. However, don't expect your friends to just change the way they look at you because of what happened. When others ask you out for coffee, bowling, or dinner at their house, take them up on their offer. You might be surprised just how good people really are, even if society does have its dark side. Yeah. And so I encourage anybody if they're able to have the courage or if they have the ability to share and help somebody that may have lost someone, to do that, because we all need each other in the process. I always say this, that, you know, if someone see that you're really trying to help yourself, people are really more favorable to offer you some help. And so by generosity, you know, don't shut down, or don't. You want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I about what you just said. In my experience in recovery from before, I've uh, I've created a lot of friendships and a lot of brotherhoods that are more family to me than family.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Like for instance, I have a good friend of mine that we're constantly keeping in contact. We only met about 2 years ago, but
Yeah.
I can relate to that because you know that one thing that we have with the addiction part of our process is the same, and we understand each other on that point. So we feel each other on that, and that created a bond between us that nobody can break. I have problems sometimes where nobody understands me on my side, but he does because he knows what I'm going through
Yeah.
in my process through addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good that you said that, because I was thinking, a lot of times here at our building at Capital Recovery Center, sometimes we meet people who either come out of rehab treatment or come out of incarceration, and they probably burnt a lot of their bridges, or they may not have loved ones that's around to support them. And I really try to let them know that we're not biologically related as family, but I want them to look at us as a extended family, that they can receive the support and help from us, you know? So yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
All right. And so the next part before we finish, because we're getting close to the end, and that is we want to talk about what to do to comfort somebody who lost their loved ones to an addiction. The article says if you have a friend dealing with the loss of losing a loved one to an addiction, there are some things you can do to avoid adding to their burden. Number one, don't judge them by the way they mourn. Don't measure the level of their grief by your own personal yardstick, especially if you had a similar experience before. People will mourn on their own time. Some can function almost immediately, while others will take days or even months before moving forward from losing a loved one from drug addiction or alcohol abuse. All right. The second one talks about, we're talking about here what to do to comfort somebody who lost a loved one to an addiction. So the first part we covered was don't judge them by the way they mourn. Second, give them space, but let them know you are always there. All right, support. We all need some type of support. People dealing with losing a loved one to an addiction may feel uncomfortable with all the attention and sympathy. If they want space, respect their decision, but let them know that you are always going to be there if they need your help. I think that's very good, man. You know, people need to know, you know, that, okay, I know you are mourning and that you're going through something, but it's very encouraging to know that, hey, listen, I'm here for you. If I can help you in any kind of way, don't hesitate to reach out and give me a call, you know? And so we try to do that here with people that we interact with here at where I work at. We let them know, say, hey, listen, if you having ideas of relapse, or if you're struggling in certain areas, if we're able to help you, please reach out. We're here for you. You know. So the third one we want to talk about: don't judge the addicted individual. The last thing that your friend needs is your opinion regarding the death of individuals as a result of alcoholism and drug addiction. You may not agree with some of the things they did. However, what could be the ultimate consequence than losing a loved one to an addiction? There's nothing you can say or do that would change that? You know, a lot of times we ask people to go to meetings, and I hear people say, you know, I didn't like that group because of whatever reason. And a lot of times it might be a level of people being disrespectful, or people may be poking holes in the story, or be judgmental. You know, I know that there was a term back in the day. If somebody was sharing their story, uh, someone probably would say, "Oh man, you telling war stories. You don't really know exactly what a person. If it is, that's not up to me to say that, because that can actually have occurred. But I get it. You know, some people can, you know, go on and on, but still, you have to give people that space and allow them to share their story. Would you agree with that, or what? You have something to say to that?
Yeah. Like when I was in the rooms and meetings and stuff, I always respected what people had to say, and even some of the stuff that I didn't agree with or whatnot, they always said something that struck with me. It's somebody always says something that hits that one part of you, like, oh, I can relate to that.
Yeah, that's true. You're right about that, man. You know, because we're all in it together. So I always was told that I'm no better than the next person. Next person's no better than me. We're all in the same boat trying to get better. You know, so that's good. Thank you, man. So the next part we want to talk about: there's no single way to cope. Refrain from giving advice unless prompted. You may have successfully moved on after losing a loved one to an addiction, but the circumstances in your own personal experience are different from your friend. Don't tell them that they should do this or they must do that. When they ask for advice, please give it to them, but make sure you don't attribute blame or judgment. Next one, never tell your friend that they should move on. There's nothing more annoying than being told that you should be happy or move on after losing a loved one to an addiction. Sure, your intentions may be good, but there's a time and place for everything. They will move on when they are ready. Your role is to provide an emotional support until they are. Next, don't push your religion and faith. This is major. This is major. Your friend's faith may have been rocked after losing a loved one to an addiction. Don't take it personally if they lash out at God for the death of the individual due to alcoholism and drug addiction. If they are not religious, don't impose your belief on theirs. Don't say God has a plan that we mortals could not understand. When they want your spiritual guidance, let them say it first. All right. And so, last but not least, losing a loved one to an addiction is a hard pill to swallow, especially if you think that you could have done more to help save the life of the addicted individual. Drug addiction is uncharted territory for some people, so they often had to grope in the dark most of the time until they can find the light switch so they can see better. The important thing is for you to take one day at a time until you are ready to forgive yourself and move forward. All right. And so, man, as always, I appreciate you, man, Mr. Serrano. Thank you for tuning in, man. I hope all go well with you this week. And you got anything you'd like to say?
No, now that I figured out how to get on the link, I'm gonna be on here every week, man. Thank you.
All right, thank you, man. And I'll talk with you some other time. All right.
All right, you have a good day, sir.
All right, you too, man. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, that's it for us. Take care, everybody.